Welcome to the latest edition of Farside with Founders and Leaders. I am delighted to be joined by Tom Lavery, who is co-founder of a sales software platform called Jiminny. So today I get to talk to Tom all about how he got to where he is today through leading sales teams all the way to running what is essentially a SaaS-based product, looking at how he founded the business, working with his technical co-founder, but also his other partner, co-founder, and his partner in life, his wife as well. So looking at the dynamics of that, as well as exploring some sales trends, hot topics, things that have helped him build out high-performing sales team and really driving value through sales in the business that he's worked in. Now, this one is certainly going to be of interest to anyone who's out there looking to grow their product, how to build out those sales teams, how to get them to perform to the highest possible standards. So I hope you will really enjoy. Sit back, grab that cup of tea and enjoy watching, or if you're audio only, enjoy listening. So hello, Tom. Welcome to the podcast.
Hey, Rupert. Pleasure to be here. How are you?
How you doing?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. Very well. Happy New Year.
Good. Happy New Year to you too. I think we can still say that. This is being recorded sort of in the second week of January, so I think we're sort of officially allowed to still say Happy New Year. For me, up until the end of the week.
Yeah, end of the week. Call it a day.
We'll call it a day. Stop saying it. Otherwise, I'll be saying it in June. So thank you again for coming on and talking to me today. So as I've just sort of mentioned, given a bit of an overview as to who you are as the introduction before this, but it'd be a good idea to I suppose, go through your sort of background and experience, sort of where you've come from, running and leading sort of sales teams through to where you are now with Jiminny, and how you got there. So if you can give us a quick sort of synopsis of your career path today, that'd be great.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for the kind introduction. That was nice of you. So yeah, like for me, I think next year is 20 years in business. What I worked out the other day, which is it feels good actually. It doesn't feel scary. I kind of learn. I'm very open to learning to grow all the time, and I feel I look back with a lot of experience. But my background generally, I started in sales. Done B2C and then did B2B, got into sales management very, very early. I was like in my early 20s, like 20, 21. Bit by accident, my sales manager left and I went to a GM of a place I was working at the time and said, give me a chance in 3 months, I can do it. Give me a shot. And then before so I never really, I've always been a sales leader or sales manager. I never really just been in sales for very long, if that makes sense. And then had a really amazing experience at a company called Raw Gateway, where we grew that from pretty much nothing to 350 employees and 2 big exits. And then growing big sales teams, sales and service teams there, just gave me the vision for Jiminny, really. It came from my own challenges of doing that across 3 geos, and that helped us set up Jiminny. And then we're like half a decade into running and growing Jiminny now. So it, as you know, time flies, and before you know it, it soon goes. But yeah, here I am today chatting to you.
Amazing. And so, as you mentioned there, so you sort of fell into sales. I think it's very cliched, isn't it? But most people fall into sales when they say, how did they get into it? But what was it that sort of attracted you to the industry, dare I ask, as sort of coming into sort of sales as a whole?
Do you know what? Actually, it's not often like there's lots of different ways. So my dad was in sales. He ran like car showrooms and different things like that. So I was always around it as a child. So that probably influenced the way that I am with people and the way that I sell and the way I am with the team and everything like that. But actually, sales is very different to how it is today. So someone comes out of uni and goes, I want to be in tech sales, like there's good salaries, and then I can get into the tech industry. Yeah, I think people think that now. When I thought about getting into sales, I thought, I don't want to just behind the desk all day and be bored because I've got ADHD and I can't sit still for 5 minutes. I look at my daughter, Sienna, now, and she can't sit still. And I'm just like, my wife's like, that's just like you, Tom. she's like eating her dinner last night and her arms and legs are all over the place. She can't sit still. So for me, I actually got into sales because, you know, I used to get on the train, go meet someone. I'm a people person. So if I really look back of why I did, is that I want an active job. Like I like dealing with people. Now you find find yourself sitting in front of Zoom a lot of the time. It is changing. We're getting back to normal, but yeah, like I did get into sales originally, because of I didn't think I'd be sitting behind a desk all day. That was how it originally started.
Fair enough. I think that's and that's one of the exciting things for me about any sort of sales role is that you're not just sat behind a desk, and you are dealing with different situations, different different people, much like being running your own business and being a founder. And I'm sure that we can talk about some of the synergy that you found from sort of building high performance sales teams to building what is a high performing business as well. So but I'd like to sort of take you back to that sort of initial sort of period of when you were running sort of sales teams and building sort of out high performance sales teams. It's a really important part, I think, of any business to have a good sales team. So there'll be people listening to this, no doubt, who are either running or sort of leading businesses whereby they're selling a product, whatever that product might be. So what are your sort of key success points in terms of when you've been building out sales teams to get them up and running, make sure they are performing at a level that is going to benefit the business and them ultimately?
Yeah, you're talking about like when you're starting from scratch, you're thinking like, how do we set up a sales team? How do we do this for the first time? Well, everything goes in stages and it's all stage appropriate, right? But for me, I'm a big believer in simplifying things. I think I spend my life in Jiminny as a business, being a founder, like constantly human beings want to complicate things all the time. We want to make things more difficult than they need to be. We overcomplicate the most simplest things. And, a lot of the time, keeping it simple is one thing you can do to start. And I think, you really need to be prepared to try and test things. And when you start with a team, you need to find out very, very quickly who your ideal customer is and what kind of resonates. Make sure you're getting the right message across so you can start to get traction and close deals. That's the initial thing for me. When you're working in a small team, you got to understand the process is part of it. You need a very simple and effective process, but it's all the things that go around it. Then when you actually start to get team members, it's actually about recruiting the right people, training the right people, coaching the right people in the right way. All of those things are different pieces of the jigsaw. I wish I could come here and give you a silver bullet, the answer, but there's not one thing. We'll be doing a sales kickoff this week with our sales team, which is much bigger now. And, I'm sure that Rupert, you love getting on this podcast and chatting to people, right? It's like a fun part of your job. I'm sure there's part of your job that you don't like.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Everyone has that, right? And I think in sales, very early, is they've got to do the ugly things well and consistently. And I just see that with even people that hunt after me or chase after me. Like, people just aren't consistent with their process or behavior. And you have to say the right things and you have to be energetic, enthusiastic coach. But the best salespeople are ones who have the right mindset and the right mentality and come in every day and are consistent. And of course, you've got to have all the flair and the skills around it to be great, but some of that you can teach over time and learn through working together as a team. But yeah, for me, that is really key, the discipline, I guess, of actually applying yourself to being successful. And then discipline comes with sacrifice, because if you're going to be disciplined, you've got to give something else up. So I'm sure people have done that in most aspects of their life. They might train to lose weight or for a wedding or whatever, but when they come into sales, I think most of the time people don't realize, I have to be disciplined, I have to sacrifice, I have to give things up if I'm going to be good. So I think building that mindset and mentality in a team is really important. So the process and everything has to come, but the bit before is is what really makes a successful team for me.
A lot of it is about mindset from all the things that I've seen with sales teams that I've run, and it's really interesting that you mention that consistency piece. So I think we've sort of worked with other people and trainers and things like that, and looked at what other people are doing. So stats in terms of consistency, and on average, we sort of say that it sort of takes 6 to sort of 7 conversations and no's to get to a yes with a customer. So, but most salespeople don't go past that third no because they give up. And so driving that consistency into people where they're prepared to go, okay, well, a no isn't necessarily a no. It's just you've not pitched it in the right way, or you've not given us what we need right now, or it's not the right time, or whatever it might be. But continuing to go, building those relationships and keeping consistent with it.
Yeah, especially in the current environment, right? I think, look, we've all lived in a world where we get everything very, very quickly, and you like want instant results. You get everything on demand, let's call it that. And if you're as a founder to grow your business or selling, are you looking to win right now, or are you looking for the opportunity to sell and build a relationship? As we were talking to our team about, like, if you engage with X companies, why that their chances are they might not be looking right now, whatever, for a reason. Like you're looking for an opportunity to build a relationship and to sell over time. If you get into a conversation or a call and you're looking to just win it now and get it now, like, it's probably not going to happen. Yeah. So again, that's the mindset of how you approach stuff. But I think there's probably a lot of people who've worked through the last 2 or 3 years. Maybe it's their first or second job, and they're thinking, oh, I need the meeting, I need the conversation, I need that KPI, I need that. Well, we've started definitely looking at, like, how do you measure stuff in different ways? Because it's not going to be as instant as it was, for sure.
And in terms of, I suppose, coming into it with that mindset, how do you feel that's helped you, or has it helped you? I suppose is probably the bigger question in terms of coming into setting up a business, because lots of founders don't necessarily have that exposure to sales. They often have a great idea for a great product, but then don't have the exposure to go out and actually sell it and sell themselves, get funding, all the rest of it. So coming from the background that you've come from, has it helped you? And if so, how?
Yeah, I think so. But I bring it back to what we just talked about before. So I think a lot, doesn't matter what background, if they're a developer or product person, the founder is often always going to be the best salesperson, because they just know it and they're so passionate about it, and it's their baby, and all of that we know. But again, it's discipline. Like, we built a really beautiful application. It's really simple and easy to use. I could spend 50% of my time making the product better, but I've got great people in the team that can do that. So again, it comes back, if you're a founder, like, are you spending 50-60% of your time doing the right thing that's going to move the needle and get it out there? Are you spending time on recruitment? Are you spending time on training? Are you spending time on selling? Rather than this feature that people might use 20-30% of the time. Like, I think it's more about the discipline of where you spend your time, because it's easy. It doesn't matter whether you've got a sales background or not. Human beings will get sucked in to do the things we want to do, not the things that actually make the difference. So I think for any founder, doesn't matter what their background is, it's about them spending their time on the stuff that's going to help the business get to the next stage, whatever that is, depending on where they are in their life cycle.
And how do you balance your time then, in terms of making sure you are sort of splitting up in those things that you need to do versus what you just want to do?
Well, balancing my time. So there's pros. Your strength is always your weakness, right? So, like, don't get me wrong. Whether you call it ADHD or whatever it is, I can do like 10 different things in a day, and I can be very, very productive, probably more than most people. I don't care about jumping around or whatever. So for me, but look, I've had, as the business has matured and the products got better, we've hired great VPs of product and engineering to free up me and James, co-founder, so we can spend time as CTO and CEO on other things. But like, 50, 60, 70% of your time as a founder in a growing business should be on customers and sales. So if you just apply that rule book, you can't go far wrong. Like, it was amazing. I spoke to a customer yesterday who's just about to close their B round, and they're telling me the story of how we've helped them over the last 2 years, and just hearing that story directly from them, and then, you know, connecting them with marketing so they can go do a story. And, you know, just you learn so much from speaking to customers and talking to prospects. It's just invaluable. And then it sparks ideas, because you have your best ideas when you're not trying to be creative. So they come to you in different ways. You probably have more better ideas about the product by spending time with prospects and customers anyway, rather than sitting there behind a screen trying to come up with the next product idea. You're gonna get the better product ideas by being out there. Anyway,
it's so true, and there's so many. I think as businesses grow, often see like leadership become very disconnected from their customers, and I think that those that are doing really, really well are connected to their customers. They're speaking to them. They know what they need. They know what what they would change about their product, so that they can go and build the product around the customers, rather than trying to build a product just for building the product.
Yeah.
You want to.
Well, you look at how our space is growing with conversation intelligence, and most people who have or haven't had it before, who go, oh, this is for sales teams maybe, or for customer facing teams, but our most successful customers, and the one I was talking to yesterday, we call it voice of the customer program. It's where the whole business is using it. When you've got the API feeding into the business intelligence platform, you've got marketing and product using this data to help drive revenue. That's where people really think holistically, big picture, and that's where it really drives a lot of value, because the whole business is engaging and thinking about how they can make a difference. You know?
And in terms of the business itself, so spoken about what you guys do, but how did you come up with the idea? You obviously sort of spotted something when you were working in sort of sales. So talk me through that.
Yeah, so I lived in the US for 5 years. We actually started the company out there. So I don't know anyone who was working in 2012 or 2013 remembers what it was like to do a video call. But you basically like have WebEx and you do a screen share or Cisco or whatever it was, and no one would trust the VoIP so they'd screen share and then you dial in on your phone. Just be too worried about the connection crapping out, basically. So like we had an inside sales team in New York, and it was like, right, you could like obey a desk phone. You had Salesforce, people were writing stuff on a notepad, and then you'd just be doing a screen share. Then we'd want to coach and train these people, and it was like, oh my God. I mean, we used Macs, and you had to get the phone calls off the phone system, you had to have a laptop. You couldn't do it off a Mac because the software wasn't compatible. So everything was just so hard. So that whole kind of disconnect between what was going into the CRM and the fact that we had a team in Australia, a team in the UK, and a team in the US, and they couldn't see what each other was doing. They couldn't hear what each other was doing. I mean, this is the first time I'd run a team, a B2B sales team internationally, right? Because we grew it all gateway started in the UK. So I was like, this is just a nightmare. Like, it's impossible. And obviously technology had moved on. So the original concept was like, imagine if you could have Spotify for like all your customer calls, like every single conversation in the cloud. And then, you know, wouldn't that be awesome? And everyone could learn from it. And then it went from there. Then we started transcribing and analyzing, integrating with the tech stack, automating to CRM. So really that was the original like tech spec, is like, how could we just bring all of your calls together to help the business learn from the customer?
And so that's really interesting, because you're obviously doing things that at the time there wasn't sort of those sort of capabilities out there. As the world has sort of moved on and everyone's evolved, being able to record calls and doing it all through sort of computerized sort of systems is pretty commonplace, right? It's the norm now. So the platform has obviously evolved a lot since then, and it does lots of other things that other similar platforms don't do. So again, tell us a bit more about that. What how's Jiminny different? What do you do?
Well, even in SaaS and tech, I'd say 85, 90% of our customers have still never had this technology before. And then if you look out there, say, I think there was a stat on the Bloomberg article I saw the other week, is like post-pandemic, now something like 70% of businesses are recording conversations. So you've got everything from call centers to different businesses, right? Like everyone is 70-80% of people are recording. Only 20% of that are actually analyzing or doing anything with the data. So the market is like, it's still very young and very early. So like we give data and insights, so it helps you understand why you're winning or losing deals. I think the biggest thing that we do is once you actually have this data, it's really valuable. It's practically how you use it in the business to move the needle. So I'll give you an example of a customer where they could see across all the different regions that everyone in sales, they had 6, 12 and 18-month contracts. And they could see that the whole of sales was only ever talking about 6-month contracts.
Right.
Yeah. So basically what they did is they worked with our academy training team, put in a plan. Within 3 months, they were selling X percentage of 12-month contracts and made like $1.8 million more. So like it's most companies just have blind spots.
Yep.
They don't know what they don't know. But definitely now, like when we work with customers, it's like what's the one metric you want to improve or make better? And it's about us working with them to use the data that Jiminny gives them to kind of make that metric better. So the software is a huge part of it. It's how we become a great partner and help them actually apply using it and embedding it into the way they work. You know, because they need something to train in to then be able to coach consistently. But we, you know, transcription, picking out keywords, analyzing the data, you know, we've taken it to another level. Like we use, whether it's a good or a bad call, we started to do automated call scoring, so you can automatically call scores, and then you almost, you know, where do I look if I was going to listen? Where should I spend my time? We've always done that, but it's a process of making it easier and easier to understand which conversations are going to move the needle. You know?
And you spoke about that that sort of case study with that customer who was simply the consultants weren't talking about the sort of, you know, longer term contract. So is it often as simple as that in terms of moving the needle? What sort of things do you see?
Yeah, I mean, you know, it really depends on the business and the vertical. Like a lot of the time in software businesses, it's the hardest part is that people struggle with the most is discovering qualifications. So they're often looking, that's when they win or lose a deal. So they can, you know, improve that by 10, 20, 30%. They have a stronger pipeline and therefore they increase sales. So a lot, I'd say 80-20 of the time, people are starting in that place, but they want to improve that metric. But it really does depend on the business, you know.
Okay, oh, fair enough. And then in terms of, again, your sort of your business, the way you sort of set up. So we've spoken about the fact that you've got co-founders as part of the team. So tell us a little bit more about your co-founders and who they are and their backgrounds.
Yeah. So James Graham is my technical co-founder. He's a CTO. We worked together for nearly 8 years at Raw Gateway. I was the first person in sales and built out sales. He was the first engineer and built the first version of the product. So James and I have kind of built the company together, and we've had some early founding employees as well, engineers who've been with us since the beginning, still there today. And obviously the little bit more unusual one is my wife, Shelley. So I actually hired her in the previous business. So we've got kind of always worked together. Weird, but so she's in there running parts of the commercial team with me right now. But yeah, so me, Shelley, and James kind of founded it, set it up, and still work together now.
Nice. It's, I suppose, as you say, slightly sort of less usual that you have sort of, you know, husband and wife sort of partner team. But if you've been used to working with Shelley before and you hired her into the team, you know that you can work together, so you know each other's sort of strengths and weaknesses, etc., all of that sort of stuff. So I'm assuming that dynamic works quite well. Yeah.
I mean, like anyone out there who's married knows that you've got to always work on your relationship. Always trying to be a better dad, better husband, better CEO. That never goes away. I think you obviously understand each other and you work together for a long time. You know each other's strengths, each other's weaknesses, but doesn't mean you've still got to work on those things. It's a constant battle, especially when you're I think when people are happy in life is when they're growing as human beings and developing still. When you stop developing and growing, often that's when things start to go wrong. Or you don't feel as good about the way that your life is going or what's going on. I've been in that position before when you're leaving a business or exiting a business and you not feel like you're in that space. So I can have some empathy for that. But I think as long as you're pushing and growing, then you're learning stuff about each other. So yeah, I think we work really well together, but we're still definitely always improving that for sure.
Yeah, well, kudos to you, and I can say this because I don't think she listens. If she does, then she doesn't tell me that she listens. But I think my wife and I, we love each other very much, but I think we'd probably kill each other if we had to work together. I'll give you an example of when we first went into lockdown. It was absolute chaos in our house because she leads her own business. She's the director of her own business, and I was sort of just starting to run the recruitment business, and there was often a heated discussion, shall we say, over whose job was more important and who needs to be looking after our son. So I think it's all about balance with these sorts of things, and if you've got that sort of relationship where you can, as you say, continue to grow, learn, try and get the balance right, I'm sure it can only add to the value of what you can bring to the business, because you're a team already at home, so there's no reason why you can't be a team at work as well.
Yeah, I think definitely probably working together is easy, the easier part. Being married is always the harder part,
Yeah,
you've got to work on.
I think that's a completely different podcast, that one, in terms of the relationship part of it. So
yeah,
I would not want to venture in giving anyone marital advice personally.
No, we'll save that for another time.
Yeah. And so I'd like to talk a bit about sort of what you're seeing really as some of the sort of the trends over the last year, and looking at sort of how you see the market sort of changing over the course of 2023. Right, we've had lots of volatility over the course of the last sort of couple of years. Everything's pretty unpredictable. So first and foremost, I'm not going to hold you to account and go and suddenly sort of cash in all my chips on this sort of stuff. But you've got access to lots of businesses. You're seeing what people are doing and how they're sort of working in sort of sales trends. So what have you seen, and where do you think things are going?
Oh, I'm not an economist for sure, so I don't know how long everything's whether it'll get worse before it gets better, or I think the whole of this year will be pretty tough for most people. I think that's just the compounding events that have happened, right? It's not one thing, it's multiple things that have got us to this place. It's which everyone knows what they are. So I think, with businesses, I think people definitely overhired and over resourced, and that kind of post-COVID boom, especially in tech. So I think it's interesting to look at it as a correction. Like, I saw something interesting the other day. It's like, is it really bad right now? Well, yeah, if your metric is 2020 to 2022, it's bad. But then if you go back and you've worked longer like us, then it's as good as it has been in previous years. Like, yeah, it's pretty normal. Like, when tech companies going for like 40 times on the Nasdaq, that's just not right. It's just a market correction, right? 8 to 10 times multiple is a normal. So I think a lot of the cutbacks are this, where people went too hard too fast, and maybe there is a shift as well. Like, I don't know, like there's no right or wrong way to do it, and I'd never criticize anyone else's model. But we've always been very capital efficient. We started bootstrapped. We believe in being really high growth, but doing it growth at all costs, where we look after our customers and our people first. So we've all, like, how people are operating now is how we've always operated. So I don't find it an adjustment for us, but I can imagine if people have done a traditional playbook and gone like rocket ship, let's go as quickly as we can, as fast as we can, then now is going to be a bit of an adjustment. So we're definitely seeing that, like, customers really value the tech, and they're not, but they're changing the size of their teams. So definitely people are trying to have a more profitable, sustainable model. Whether that will last and then things will swing again, everyone will go back to normal, or whether X percentage of businesses will look for that, we'll have to see. But I think when it comes to actually people, like, how do you approach it and make sure that you're maximizing your own business this year? I think it's going to be hard. It's always hard to create urgency. Like, you can't create urgency in a business necessarily. That there has to be a reason. You might have to find out that reason and plug into it. I think the thing that we're very strong with our team is, like, how are you creating more value? Before, like, this time last year, maybe you're having to engage with more people in the business. Maybe you're having to really go deeper to what's going to move the needle. What metrics you're going to impact. Because if you're driving more value, then it will create more urgency. So I think rather than thinking, a bit more simplistically about creating urgency, it's about how do we create more value, so it does create more urgency. So that's how we're working, operating both on the customer side and the sales side to make sure, one, we can help as much as possible, but two, so it helps us to be successful as well.
It makes complete sense, right? If you're offering value, then people will buy your product and service, whatever that might be. So yeah, completely can see how that can benefit people moving forward. And so finally, what's next for sort of Jiminny? So obviously you've spoken there about sort of making sure you're continuing to add value, but in terms of throughout the roadmap for 2023, what's down the pipeline?
Well, we did a raise back in August, so we grew the team, like, from 20 odd people at the end of 2021 to like nearly 80 now. So much bigger team that we've got.
Yeah.
And growing the business the best we can. We've got some really cool stuff coming out on product. So we doubled the size of our engineering team. So we're excited about what we're doing on the tech and service side for customers this year. 50% of our customers are in the US and 50% are pretty much in Western Europe. So yeah, we're just really looking to push on and get to the so-called next stage, whatever that milestone is. You've got to have these markers along the way. I think for me, we're quite mission-driven companies. It's always about reaching our potential. So rather than being hundreds of customers, how do you get to thousands of customers and then keep moving on there. We definitely got a vision for where we see the platform and kind of how it works longer term. And we feel that this technology is still very new. We're only scratching the surface. There's so much more data to be mined from conversations and so many clever ways it can be used to have an impact for salespeople, but for businesses generally. So we're just excited to be on that journey and to keep developing the product, really.
Yeah, amazing. It's, I mean, look, from everything that you've said about the product, it's an amazing product. I'm sure it's got a lot more work it can do, and as you say, barely scratching the surface. There are a whole host of people out there who could benefit from the utilization of it. So, wishing you loads and loads of success in terms of that journey throughout 2023. And thank you so much for coming on and talking to me.
Absolute pleasure. Nice to see you, Rupert. Thanks a lot.